Hey everybody, Mobile Gamers Unite here. Busy day, but I wanted to find some time today to pop over to Langrisser and just kind of weigh in on all of the new stuff that we have going on over here. From the new mini games, there's been new items added to the game. We're going to go over some of those. There is a new faction group added to the game, one that I really like, so we're going to talk about that. Obviously in the background we have Aries, one of the new characters from the banner that's up right now. I was very blessed to pull both of these characters in probably 12 pulls. It was ridiculous. I got Aries in 3 pulls, and then I pulled Maya probably about 7 pulls later. This has got to be the fastest banner clear I've ever had in Langrisser, so really cool because I was not expecting to get these characters. I heard that they were coming. I saw a few things on them, and I didn't pick up on the fact that they're a brand new faction group. So when the banner finally dropped, I didn't really have resources. Like I said, I had 3 tickets starting out, and this banner was going to be a hard skip for me, and then I realized that this is actually a brand new faction group. I started kind of kicking myself in the ass, and I decided, well, I might as well throw the 3 tickets that I have, and I managed to get Aries off of that. And I think about, 7 pulls later, I got Maya as well. So, pretty excited. Good luck all around, I guess, on this banner. Before this, I was actually pulling on the item banner. That was a ton of bad luck. I'll be honest with you guys. I think Langrisser just let me clear this banner because let me show you how awesome my luck was with the equipment. Okay, so this is how she went, right? You guys might see that I have 2 of the accessories here. I have the hat, and then look at all these armors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these bad boys. They're not bad boys. I wish I could call them that. I wish there was a use for these things. If anybody actually has a use for these, please, the comments are open. Let me know what I can do with all of these other than melt them down into ore. I just don't I don't find this item very appealing. It's just kind of like meh. It's going to give a little bit of hit points, which is nothing new for a chess piece. And then when the unit's hit point is above 50%, defense increases by 2%. And then when the unit's hit point is below 50%, your magic defense is increased. So obviously units like Luna can wear this, but I think there's a better armor for her anyway that we already had. So I could be wrong, guys. Leave a message. I don't play with Luna. I don't have her built up. So I don't know, but I don't really see this being a best in slot for anybody, unless I'm totally tripping. If I am, please somebody leave me a comment, because I might be able to do something with these, but I don't know what I'm going to do with them. Regardless, what happened is let's see, I pulled all 5 of these pretty much in a row. Every single time I pulled an on banner, this is the item that I would get 5 times going. It was terrible. Oh, I also pulled some off banners along the way. So with these 5 armors, there was probably about 3 off banners as well. So my first 8 SSR pulls off the item banner was just kind of garbage to me. I was not very happy at all. And then finally I did have a Twilight Star come down, which was one of the items that I actually did want to get. I've heard that this is good for Arena. I can kind of see why. And then I managed to get a hat as well. I wanted this hat. This hat is important, and I actually wish I could trade like 4 of these armors for 1 more of these hats. I would be very happy. But I thought the hat was worthwhile. There's also a weapon that was on the banner. We're actually going to have to look that thing up. I do not have the weapon. Let's see. I guess we can start our review with that thing, the one that I didn't manage to get. We'll just have to go into the gallery. We'll go to equipment. So this new weapon looks cool. It's got like a vampire-esque thing to it. Oh, I also did I managed to get another pair of Apex boots like the night before these new heroes dropped, so that was pretty cool. I'll never complain about a pair of Apex boots ever. Alright, it should be down here somewhere. Is this it? Yeah. The Scarlet Reaper. So this can be used by Lancers, Flyers, and Sea Monster types. It's going to give you some hit points and attack. Cool. Murderous Desire is the ability that you unlock at level 10. It's going to give you attack plus 2% starting off. So, okay, a weapon that's giving us attack, no big deal. The special that this weapon really has is before actively dealing damage, if the enemy's hit point is less than 100%, damage dealt this time is increased by 1%. So as long as your enemy isn't at full health, this is going to increase the percent of damage that you do. That's pretty awesome. I mean, it's going to add to your damage in a semi-significant way. After dealing damage, deals fixed damage one time, equals the hero's attack, and I'm sure that 0.5 scales up to a 1. So this is cool. Definitely, it's going to give you some fixed damage. It's going to give you increase to your damage by a certain percent, as long as your enemy's not at 100% health. I would not mind having this thing, honestly. I think this is great. Yeah, especially if you have some sort of fixed damage built in, so that you can take your enemy's health down a little bit before you attack with this thing. Typically speaking though, you're gonna get some attacks in against enemies that aren't at 100% health, so this thing is going to proc, and I just think it has some fairly strong abilities on it. I like all this. I wish I had one of these. I'd play around with it, see what I could do for sure. Other than that though, we do have all the other items. In fact, we have a plethora of some. So really the armor, kind of went over that, really isn't doing anything much for me. I wasn't really excited about this thing. It was kind of like the item on the banner where you're like, why did you even put this item here? I mean, I guess the art looks kind of cool for it. I was really hoping there was a translation error here and this thing actually did something cool, but hey. So moving on, a lot of people wanted to get the Twilight Star, and you guys see the characters that I have this item equipped on. It's because I think these characters can make some of the best use of this item. This is a hybrid damage item. It's kind of unique because it's giving you attack and intelligence plus 3%. That's at level 30. Obviously that scales up. But I think this is the only accessory that we have that actually gives you attack and intelligence split across the board. And yeah, as far as the stats on it go, it's giving you straight attack and intelligence. So very much a hybrid item, like the definition of a hybrid item. So the special ability on it is Daybreak. Before initiating battle, deals fixed damage to the enemy one time, equals to the hero's attack or intelligence, whichever is lowest. That's what we need to pay attention to here. If the enemy is formed of mixed types, which a lot of them are, right, they will not be invulnerable to damage dealt this time. So that is going to overcome, I believe, any sort of ability that ignores fixed damage, as long as your enemy is in mixed forces, meaning that like a cavalry unit with a flyer troop, that's a mixed force. So you're going to hit them with this fixed damage and they're not going to be able to be invulnerable to it. So that I think is a pretty strong ability. Especially in Arena, and that's why Sonya has this item right here. So we'll go over the hat real quick, and then we'll actually look at Sonya and Akka, and I'll discuss why I think This is like one of the best in slot accessories for these characters, or just why these items work for these characters so well. Here's the hat, the Witches Remnants. This is a great hat. It's going to give hit points and magic defense, big surprise for a hat, but the ability on it, warding spell, let's see, it's going to give you some hit points, which we can always use hit points, that's nice. After taking action, increase the skill of one friendly unit by 16%. Also immune to healing reversal. That's a big one. Yeah, I mean, if you can apply that to a juggler, that's some nasty business right there. Okay. And effects that stop you from acting again for one turn. This is important. I've actually been in a fight where, I mean, it's my fault. I didn't notice that there was that debuff on Leon where it stopped him from acting again, and it cost me a kill. Like, I could have taken one of the enemies out. I wanted to use Chivalry just to be safe, so I ended up using Chivalry and just doing nothing, right? Because as soon as I used Chivalry, I didn't get to act again. So things like that can cost you a battle. It's so nice to be able to protect against that from an item like this. And it's also giving you the immunity to healing reversal. So this can be a very important piece of gear. I honestly wish I had two of these. I put this one on my healer. So great piece of gear. I was very happy with this hat when I actually read what it did. It's just very useful. And on top of that, this is like, I think, the only item that we have that actually increases skill. For units like Sakura, for units like Joshua, that can lead to some really nasty crits. That's all I can say, really. Like 20% more to your skill. When you have a character like Joshua who's already running around with a 400 skill, 20%, that's adding 80 more skill. That's adding 8% to their crit. Like, as far as I know the way that crit works, yeah, that's adding 8%. That's pretty substantial. That's going to help you. You're just going to be able to crank out more damage. And that's really not all that it does. It's obviously giving you all these immunities to healing reversal and this whole act again thing, which that can affect a battle in so many ways. That's all I'm going to say. This is a great item. I would trade all of these armors for one more of these hats, real talk. I am happy though that I got two of the Twilight Stars. So back to the Twilight Star. The reason I have that item equipped on the heroes that I have it on is, first of all, there's Sonya, which is like every whale's best friend right now, just because of, where is she? Because of how powerful she's become. We all know how strong Sonya is. More and more people are starting to use her in Arena. So Sonya also gets to run around with the Dark Dawn. This thing is pretty much doing the same thing that the Twilight Star is doing when it comes to doing fixed damage. It's going to do fixed damage based off of, let's see, is it, I thought it was the lowest stat. Well, it's going to be intelligence. It's going to use her intelligence. Attack and intelligence. When actively hitting an enemy with a melee attack, deals fixed damage to the enemy 2 times hero's intelligence. Okay. Okay, and when she does a ranged attack, it's going to hit 2 times the hero's attack. Alright, but for most battles, you're going to be attacking with her close quarters. At least that's what I do. So her fixed damage off of this is going to scale off of her intelligence anyway. If we look at her stats, her attack is an S, but her intelligence is a D. So she's not going to get the most fixed damage off of this intelligence score, but that's why it's nice to be able to double up on it. Like, if you could get a source of fixed damage from your weapon, and then you can get a source of fixed damage from your accessory, and they both feed each other, right? Because both of these are giving you attack and int, and attack an int. So even though her intelligence is a D stat, you can get some decent fixed damage out of both of these items working together. On top of that, if you go into your character's class, obviously, I haven't finished, like obviously here on this weapon, I have 23 attack on it. I also need to add some intelligence to her because it's going to help her fix damage. Your weapon slot can give you a ton of intelligence and attack. You can get some pretty good rolls for both of those off of your weapon. That's what I'm going to be doing with this Sonya, and just really cranking up that fixed damage. So I just obviously need some more of the class enhanced scrolls. So that's why it works for Sonya, even though she has an S stat and a D stat, because she already has another source of fixed damage, and it's nice to just stack them together. The other person I gave that same item to is Akka. Here she is. Here's her Twilight Star. It's only level 30. Here's the deal with Akka though. Akka doesn't have a weapon that gives her fixed damage like Sonya does, but her fixed damage from the Twilight Star is going to be a lot more than Sonya's. The reason for that is if we look at this character's stats, her intelligence is an S, but her attack is a B. That's a lot better than a D, so she's going to be able to get her attack stat much higher. And obviously the Twilight Star is going to proc off of her attack value, so you're going to be getting fixed damage off of a B stat. On top of that, if we actually look at Akka's moves here, she has Blood of the Shaka. Your attack or intelligence is increased by 50%, whichever is lower, for 3 turns. 50% is a huge boost. This is going to increase her B stat attack by 50%. It's going to be a lot. She's going to go from 300 attack to 450 just off of this, and then that is going to increase the amount of fixed damage that she does. Yeah, this works very well for her, so definitely I think it's one of the best in slot items for her. The other thing too is Akka doesn't have to worry about movement so much. My whole thing with accessories is they have to be very powerful to overtake boots, right? Boots add to movement, plus there's different various types of boots that add to other things other than movement. Apex boots add to strength. The point being is, if I'm going to take up an accessory slot and I'm not putting boots on that character to augment their movement, I'm going to want to make sure that the character already has good movement to begin with. Or like in Akka's case, Akka can get around pretty well. She can teleport herself to wherever her little summon is. Her summon moves further than she does. Also, she can augment her movement by casting Blood of the Shika, because this lets her, move up an extra 2 blocks. So all in all, it works out for Akka, using up her accessory slot for not a pair of boots. And obviously this is going to work very well for Sonya, because Sonya has a ton of movement to begin with. Not a ton, but she's moving a lot further than 3 blocks. So happy about this item. I was not happy about how many resources it took me to get these items. I was completely drained, but I do feel like some of my characters are better off. Honestly, I don't play with Sonya that much. Akka, I do have plans on playing with her. I like running her with Yusuke because she can constantly trigger his talent, and Akka's just fun to play. I just got her skin. I dig the way it looks. I think it's awesome. But yeah, that totally left me drained. These characters dropped. Where are these characters? Oh, you know what? Since we just talked about those items from that banner, we might as well talk about the characters from that banner and how mine turned out. Here's my Ashram. He's almost at 7k power. I did swap out a sword for a Seal Guardian. I wish I had a better roll on it. Well, it's not too bad, but it's not the best. I feel like I could do better. I purposely stayed away from having a lot of hit points on this character because I want him to get the bonus from the carbon fiber helm and armor when his troops die out. So if his troops have more hit points than him, he can effectively get a much higher attack just from killing his troops off. I have a few different accessories I can put on this guy other than the Judge Talisman. Obviously, I have a Slayer's Emblem for him and a bunch of other stuff. So still working on that. But all in all, I just want to increase this character's attack as high as I possibly can so that he can proc his attack first ability, and I want him to get a huge boost from his armor and headpiece from when his troops die out. That gives him a super high attack. I mean, this guy, he can get his attack up to 1800. That might not sound like it's a lot because obviously Leon gets his attack higher than that. But Leon doesn't get to come back to life 2 times in a row. Like, I mean, this guy also hits with 1.7 times modifier, and he's got a 1.5 over here, and they open up, well, they change to the other attack. The point being is this guy can continuously throw high modifier attacks with a high attack. If he can attack first, it's just amazing. He turns into a meat grinder, and he looks cool. I'm not really worried about him only having 6,000 hit points because, like I said, he gets to come back to life multiple times, so I can kind of play Russian roulette with his hit points, keep him low so that just killing off most of his soldiers triggers a super high attack for him. And obviously he gets the whole Black Knight thing where, see, Leon gets an increased percentage to his damage for every block that he moves up. But this guy actually gets an increase to his strength stat. So, instead of getting 20% more damage, he's going to get like 20% more strength. So you can get this guy's attack very high. Mine's been almost to 2,000 when his troops are dead and he gets to move up 5 blocks. It's very nice. Awesome character. I absolutely just love this character. I'm definitely going to keep working on him. I need to get some better rolls for him, but not too shabby. He's right under 7k. And then we have Deedlit. Which is funny because my Deedlit is over 7k just by 92. And she's only a 4-star. Now, before you guys think that you're going to get some uber powerful Deedlit here, I got news for you. My Deedlit has went into a different direction. She's not going to be as freakishly powerful as you think just because of her 7k stat, well, 7k power. So the idea behind my Deedlit, my little deed, is the longer she stays in the fight, the more I can use her utility. Ultimately, that's what's going to help me win. I'm not really going to use this girl to try to assassinate people and try to one-shot people. I'm running her with Divine Boots, which I have to get a much better roll on. I only got 5 int, but this thing is giving me 10% hit points, so I just kind of left it like that. Also, Deedlit being able to move 4 blocks instead of 3 is kind of a big deal. Deedlit is pretty much almost always going to get to attack first because she gets to act again as soon as she goes into the enemy's threat range. Well, with these boots, that's given her like a 10 block reach, 4, and then 2 block reach with her attack. So that's pretty gnarly. I definitely love it. I am trying the Arcane Battle Grab on it. Again, I kept this thing because it's giving you 10%, 9% hit points, 15% magic defense, and 18 magic defense. This is an absolutely sick roll for this item. I really wish, well, her magic defense is a B. It's a B stat, so it's not the worst thing in the world to get fixed damage off of. And if I have such high magic defense enhancements like 15% and flat 18, this girl's actually going to be able to pull off some pretty decent fixed damage off of the Arcane Battle Grab. I never thought I'd be saying that, but I finally found a home for this thing. And I think the enhancement roll that I got on this thing is just a sign. I mean, this is almost like, this is what? This got to be almost 30% if you add all these up. in enhancement value just on this armor. I think it's great, and that fixed damage is starting to really shine through. Of course, I still have the Gift of Eternal Life. Need to get a better roll on this, but man, breeze scrolls are scarce. They're like the #1 thing I need. Breeze scrolls, especially now since I'm actually starting to kind of piece together an arena team. I have enough characters at 7,000 power where I can actually feasibly start coming up with a roster. And breeze scrolls, they are just, I can never get enough breeze scrolls. I have a stockpile of just about every other scroll, but breeze scrolls. Alright, so we have Anne's helmet on her. Really, I want to swap this out with her best in slot helmet. I fully agree. Geez, what is that helmet called? That's adding to your hero's damage when they're not attacking that turn. It's giving you plus 20% to your hero damage. The helm that my Bernie's wearing, I know you guys know what I'm talking about. It's the best in slot for her. If I get another one of those helms, it's definitely going on her. Until then, the Anne's helm is going to have to hold her over. I'm getting 13% hit points off of this thing and 3 intelligence, so 16 plus 7. That's pretty good, right? Like 22% altogether off of, this one enhancement. That's still pretty good. So I pretty much just kept this helm on her. I think I left this helm alone just because it had the 13% hit points on it. So all in all, it's still a pretty damn good roll. Even if the helm itself doesn't do what I want it to do. And then of course the Divine Boots. I've tried a couple different accessories out for her, and I still have those accessories rolled. I went with the Divine Boots because this is giving her a lot of hit points, still giving her a little bit of intelligence off the enhancement, but the mobility is really what I'm after here, because my whole thing is keeping her alive in order for her to drop Sea of Miracles, and most importantly, I really like Accelerated Aid. And as long as Deedlit survives and she's in the fight, she is continuously going to be applying this, giving my other characters more mobility. Things like this, these little buffs, they can win you a fight, because if your opponent loses tracks of how many buffs you have, or that this buff is getting applied to somebody and it's increasing their movement, I can see that kind of giving you a power play here and there, and maybe, just maybe, give you that one-up that you need to overcome your opponent in arena. So really this is what I have this girl for. She's going to be running around pretty much trying to stay alive using her Sea of Miracles and applying Accelerated Aid, and that's why her hit points were so important to me, and pretty much just like her defensive stats, her survivability. I think it's great if this girl can finish some heroes off, but I don't think she's going to be acting as much of an assassin for me and actually trying to one-shot people. That's just not going to happen. I know it's not going to happen, but I feel like mine has, she's tough. Like, she's going to be hanging around. I'm going to have to see how this goes. I might change this build around, but this is what I'm trying for now. Obviously, her enhancements are actually alright, or she really wouldn't be at 7,000 power at only 4-star. So definitely work in progress, but I feel like I'm building my D-Lit a lot different than what most other players are. And hey, I fully get that. That's another reason why I don't have any breeze enhancements. And pretty much everyone we're looking at is going to be taking up breeze. Ashram took up breeze. D-Lit took breeze. So that's what I ended up doing with those characters. And we talked about the item banner and how I pretty much just went ham on it. And you saw what I had to go through just to get these items. I didn't even get the weapon. So, I was completely done. I had like 3 pulls. I wasn't really going to make much of a fuss over this new banner. I thought Maya looked cool. A lot of people were excited about her and Aries. I honestly thought all the hype was about just Maya being a waifu and just a lot of people wanting to pull that character. boy, did I misread the situation. When the banner actually dropped, I noticed that this is a brand new faction buffer, and if it's one thing that, I mean, I'm sure most of you can agree with me on this, that when a new faction buffer drops, you want that character. You want to be able to play with that new faction buff. You're going to probably get characters down the road, and some of those new characters just might fall into this faction group, and I mean, it's just really good to have the faction buffers. I honestly think that that's what most people were pulling for off of this banner. They were trying to pull for Aries. So lucky me, I find out that this guy's a faction buffer. And not only that, but I find out that his faction buff is very applicable, and it's good for arena, and it just sounds really good and useful to me. And I'm like, damn, I only have 3 tickets. So I threw my 3 tickets, and he actually came down on the 3rd pull. I could not believe my luck. I got Aries on the 3rd pull. And then I started reading pretty much over his faction. I was very happy. We're going to go over that. And then I managed to grind out like 7 more pulls, and I got Maya off of that. So we do have both of them. Here's Aries in his 3-star. He's at 5,000 power. And where is Maya? Sweet Maya. Where is she with her purple hair? She should be up here somewhere. Oh, there she is. Okay, I guess it's not a purple hair like Rennie. This is like it's a dark aqua blue. I don't know. We're not splitting hairs here. This is what my Maya looks like. She's definitely work in progress. I do think that it was cool that she's Empire, but she is also this Langrisser reincarnation Tensi. This is the new faction group. It is an anti-arena group. Pretty much this faction group is going to favor you if your enemies are bunched up around a tank, or bunched up for any reason at all. The more enemies you have within 3 blocks of you, the more damage you do. You're going to get an extra 5% damage per enemy. So if you have 4 enemies around you, you're going to get that plus 20% more damage. The only other faction group, to my knowledge, that's giving you plus 20% damage is Empire, and it's not as applicable. My whole thing with the Empire, it's a great boss killing faction, because I mean, you're going to get 20% more damage if you have class advantage over your enemy. My whole thing is, if you have class advantage, you're already going to do 50% more damage. So a lot of times you don't really need that full 20 extra percent, because you're already doing just a ton. So I would rather have 20% more damage, not based on my class and my enemy's class, but based on how many enemies are around me. And that way you're going to get that 20% extra to your damage no matter what type of enemy you're fighting. And I think that is more applicable. Obviously, if there's only one enemy around you, you're only going to get 5% more damage. So, but this is cool, because this is going to, I think this is going to bring out some new strategic play in Arena. When you're going up against this faction group, it might not be the best idea to just huddle everybody around Landius or Juggler, which typically is what players do right now. So this might just, shake the game up a little bit. I'm all for it. I think it's awesome. And of course, these characters, we'll start with Aries, they are pretty much built around this faction power. So let's just actually go over it and read it. Transmigration is what Aries faction buff is called. Obviously greatly increases offensive and defensive stat of all Langrisser reincarnation allies within range. So here's the good part. For every 1 enemy within 3 blocks, damage dealt is increased by 5% up to 20% last 4 turns. That is just awesome. And of course, Aries' talent, Fearless Will. First of all, Aries can move through enemies. So this is new. This is gonna make it so that you can't block off certain units from him. Like, you know, he's still going to be able to walk right through your tank and go to the very back and attack people, whereas other units, they can't move through enemies, so they're going to get stopped right at that tank, and they're not going to be able to reach the units in the back. So also, pretty much every unit that this guy moves through, he gets a pretty nice bonus, right? Fearless Will increases all stats excluding hit points by 2% for every one enemy within 1 ring radius around him. And I think that goes up to 2 rings, so it's a lot easier to have a ton of enemies around you within 2 rings of you. Let's see, for a maximum of 8%. So up to 4 enemies are going to boost his stats, and obviously this is going to go up. I'm sure he can probably get like a 20%. I don't know. I don't have him at 6-star. I wish I did, but the comments are open. Let me know what his maximum percent is. I'm sure it's pretty good. When moving, can pass through enemy units. That that one sentence there is worth so much. That is so powerful. That really makes this guy useful. That also requires this guy to have a ton of movement to be really effective, because you want him to be able to get to the enemy and then still have movement to move through them so he can get this awesome buff. Alright? Before dealing damage and after taking action, gain 1 sweep formation stack for every 1 enemy that you pass through. So again, the more people he passes through, the more of these stacks he's going to get, and each stack increases his crit chance by 5%, and it stacks up to 5 times. That's pretty awesome, right? And obviously after a crit actually triggers and you land your nasty crit, it clears all of the stacks, and you start all over again. So this is, in a way, it's like Rain Force. Once he accumulates these stacks, and then he just kind of uses them to try to assassinate somebody or whatever, when he's done with that attack, his stacks are gone. Same thing with this guy. So if you move through 4 people, okay, you're going to get 20%. Stacks up to, oh, so you can get 25%. Well, let's just say you move through 4 people. You're going to get 20% more to your crit. That's pretty awesome. 20% to your crit is a big deal. That's worth 200 skill, right? And this guy, even in his infantry class, he has a B stat for his skill, so I'm going to be able to get his skill pretty high just off of, you know, his stats. Then Fearless Will increase his chance of getting a crit for every single enemy he moves through. So then he's going to be able to land a big ass crit. Like, you're almost guaranteed to be able to get a crit with this guy. You're going to have a pretty good chance after you move through some people. And here's the good part. He gets Noble Charge. Okay? Attacks a single enemy dealing 1.4 times damage. So the modifier is not amazing, but it dispels 3 buffs before battle. So you're going to strip your opponent of 3 buffs. That's very, very good. So that can take a lot away from your opponent before you actually attack them. Before entering battle, crit damage is increased by 8% for every enemy within a 2-ring span. So again, the more enemies around you, the more damage he's going to get from his faction power, and the more damage he's going to get to his critical damage, right? His talent increases his chance of him scoring a crit, and Noble Charge increases the amount of crit damage you do. It all comes together very nicely, right? So you can get an extra 32%. Yeah. Crit damage is increased by 8% for every enemy within a 2-ring. 2-ring it's a pretty good distance. You get a few enemies, you're getting 8% from each of them. You can get up to 32% to your crit. That's to damage. That's pretty big. And upon eliminating an enemy, this skill's cooldown is reduced by 3 turns. It's a 5-turn cooldown. So that's going to change it to a 2-turn cooldown. This is a good move for taking somebody out, because it's kind of like you're going to get a crit, especially if you move through a bunch of people. It increases his talent, increases his chance of getting a crit, and the actual move itself is a 1.4 times modifier, but it can add up to 32% more to your crit damage. It can be very nasty. This guy can take some people out, especially if you got enough movement to move through a bunch of the enemies before actually using Noble Charge. In a nutshell, that's really what this guy does. And the reason I have him in infantry, he can obviously also be made a flyer. I'm pretty sure he's going to have a higher skill as a flyer. And he's going to have better movement as a flyer. So most people are going to tell you to build him as a flyer for sure. The way that I have him, I think if I really wanted to run him as an infantryman, first of all, he has to have breeze on him to try to proc more movement to move through people. Second of all, I want a pair of boots on him. I just picked up a pair of Apex boots the other day, and I have a pair of Divine boots. He's just kind of rocking the Divine boots. Obviously, if I really want to keep this guy and run him like this, I'm going to want to put the Apex boots on him. But for now, these are going to have to hold him over. So the reason I would keep him in infantry class, and this is just me, I'm sure a ton of you out there are going to want to make him a flyer, which makes perfect sense. The thing is, for me personally, right, some of the best gear in the game, IMO in my opinion, some of the best gear that I like using, like Memory's War Axe is one of them. Obviously you have to be an infantry type to use Memory's War Axe. And I think Memory's War Axe can do a lot for him. This guy's a faction buffer. And I would like another one of those helms on him. What's it called? God, I forget what that helm is called. It's the helm that increases your skill damage. I want that on this guy, and I want that on D-Lit as well. We're talking about the same helm. I'm going to look that damn thing up. I'm tired of forgetting what I'm talking about. I'm sorry, guys. What is that helm called? It's like one of my favorite helms. The Fury of Tyr. The Tyr helm. Goodness. I'm sorry, guys. Been a long day. So, yes, I want the Fury of Tyr helm for him, because when he's dropping his faction buff, when he's taking the time to faction buff, that's going to give him some skill damage for his next attack. And I feel like if you can get that extra skill damage, and then you can move through a bunch of people, and you can score a giant crit with added crit damage, and if you manage to kill somebody and proc Ancient Wisdom from Memory's War Axe, this gives you hero damage plus 20% for a turn. Oh my goodness, you could do so much with that. You know, if you had the Tyr helm and you got the extra skill damage, even if it is only like 10%, and you got 20% more hero damage off of Memory's War Axe, and you manage to actually maybe proc Breeze and get some extra movement, and use his Fearless Will ability to move through a few enemies, and then use Noble Charge. Oh my goodness. You're going to be hitting with a 1.4 times modifier, and let's see, you're going to have, depending on how many people you move through, you're going to have like an extra, you're going to have a high probability to score a crit, right? And then you're going to get, up to 32% more crit damage on top of your 20% more hero damage, on top of your 10% more skill damage. I mean, that's just a lot, okay? I can't do all that math in my head right now, but I can tell you guys that that is enough to kill off a lot of heroes in this game. I haven't got to test it yet, right? I mean, you do need the stars to align a little bit, but man, could this guy drop an effing nuke. If all of that came together, if you got that critical hit and just applied all these different percentages to your damage, it would just be off the chain. So that is why I think this character is cool. So that's what I'm working on. Let's see. Dragon Master, he pretty much gets lightning and wind whisper, like nothing really new there. Resurging Gale, he gets this from his Dragon Knight class. This looks new. Let's see, passive crit chance is increased by 10%, which is nice for him because it's just gonna make him better off at dropping that crit. After dealing damage, if this unit has a sweeping formation effect, it can move another 4 blocks. And then it has a cooldown. So actually, I might want to unlock that. That is pretty freaking important. The thing is, it's going to take up his one skill cost. And I really do like reinforcement. I do. It's just one of my favorite things to have on characters. That way this guy can keep healing. Yeah, I like it. I like him running around like this. But, you know, he has the ability to have some awesome setups. Like, obviously, you could take reinforcement out if you're running a good dedicated healer. And you can put in this this Resurging Gale ability. Crit chance increased by 10%. That is huge. That's worth 100 skill, right? And then obviously we just went over how this guy can augment his ability to score crits, and he can augment his crit damage, attack and skill, attack, hit point, and skill. So he's going to also have a higher base skill as a dragon rider. I think infantry is obviously going to give him a little bit more hit points. Most people are going to run him as a dragon master, and I can't hate on that at all. His dragon also looks awesome. Like, we just got Ashram with like a custom looking beige dragon, and now this guy has a different looking dragon, and he definitely looks cool. And while we're talking about that, I would also like to point out the skins for these heroes are badass. These are some of the best skins, definitely, in my opinion. If you don't think so, leave a comment. Let me know what your favorite skins are. But the new Gizaroff skin was just amazing. That thing just looks sweet. And then, obviously, these skins, they just look wicked. I wish I had these skins. Maybe I'll be able to get them later down the line. But I didn't have to put any money into this banner to get both of these characters. So I am thankful for that. I will gladly run them to their full potential without those skins, but wanted to give Langrisser some props. They've been coming out with some really, really gnarly skins. Gizaroff just looks crazy. Gotta love that skin. So this is what's been going on in Langrisser. It's been busy, right? Because I got all these characters to build. I'm doing my best. Aries is only 5,000. I think we pretty much went over just about really everything with him. None of these skills that he gets from being a Dragon Master are new. We all know what Wind Whisper does. We know what Lightning does. Oh yeah, he gets an Archmage. He can be an Archmage, and that is going to yield him Resist. That's pretty useless to me, but it does give you immunity to Sun, unbuffable, and mobility reduction. You know, I'm sure people would get Archmage just for the extra stats. I don't know. But Fighter gives him Sunshade. Always nice to have that ability to kind of heal yourself up after battle. All in all, very solid character. Aries is strong. He's definitely strong. He's a breath of fresh air as far as I'm concerned. Great stats. I can't wait to actually build this guy up. I'm going to try him in his flyer class. But like I said, I think it's all going to come down to if you want to run him in an infantry class, it's going to come down to, do you have the right equipment? Because I just feel like you'll never be able to utilize this guy unless he has a pair of boots. As an infantryman, he's going to have a pair of boots, and he's going to have breeze for you to be able to actually have enough movement to move through units. But when the stars align, and that does manage to happen, if you can hit people with Memory's War Axe and some of the awesome gear that infantry heroes get, I think this guy can be very, very nasty. And hey, he's also going to be able to be very nasty as a flyer. He's going to have a ton of movement. It's going to be easier for him to move through enemy units when you have a ton of movement. So I think really this guy's a breath of fresh air. Like I said, he's something totally new and different. I can't wait to really get to run him around and just see how awesome he does. I've played a few battles with him. It is pretty cool being able to move through units. Alright, and then finally we get to Maya. I'm so glad this girl did not get edited. Busty Maya is here to be the best maid in the world. I guess that's kind of her character design. Very cool character. Very awesome buff management. That's what I'm going to say. Buff and debuff. So she's a really good support character. She's got some mage element built in. I got her running around with Gift of Eternal Life just to give support. I think it's great for her. I got Tenyo's on her, and I got Tenyo's headdress and a holy ring so she doesn't get silenced. This accessory is probably not permanent. I'm going to switch this thing out. So let's really look at what Maya does. Super Maid. Let's start at the top. When an enemy unit is within 2 blocks, her intelligence increases by 5%. Cool. So again, more enemies around, stronger we get. Before actively dealing damage to enemies, gain a 50% chance to dispel one enemy buff. Now notice this is before actively dealing damage. This isn't when initiating combat. So with her AoE, even when she throws that AoE, that's dealing damage, and she's got a 50% chance to dispel one of the enemy's buffs and increase the damage they take by 5%. I like this whole increase the damage they take thing because it makes your other characters way more potent. It's going to increase how much they do to that same enemy. Last one turn, after taking actions, dispel one debuff from an ally within 2 blocks. Right? Okay, so she's going to strip buffs off of the enemy, and she's going to strip debuffs off of allies. Great buff management, right? And obviously your allies have to be within 2 blocks for her to, take the debuffs off of them. So because of the way that that's set up, and because you're going to want to run her close-knit to some of your other characters to take the debuffs off of them, that is why I gave her a Tenyo's headdress, because I figure while she's taking debuffs off of allies, she can also apply buffs to them from gear, Tenyo's headdress. So that's why I chose a hat like this for her. I think it's very fitting, right? If we actually look at her attacks, her skills, she does get Ice Dragon's Breath. It's like a sorcery move. Well, a sorcery move. That was just silly. It's like a sorcerer's skill, right? This thing is a spell. It's kind of like what Gizaroth has. It's going to make those 3 straight lines. Lamba has something close to this too. Range 5 blocks and 3 blocks. So it's a pretty big span. Attacks all enemies in 3 straight lines, dealing 0.36 AoE damage. Super effective against Lancers. Also reduces the enemy's mobility by 1 block for 2 turns. That's really good. She can pretty much immobilize a bunch of people all at once. This can stop a tank from blocking if you break their movement. So it's nice for her to have that. Obviously, your enemy can most likely, if they're smart and they have a healer next to their tank, they're probably going to block the mobility reduction. There's a bunch of different hats and abilities that do that, but it's still nice to have, right? Not everybody is going to be immune to mobility reductions. It's really nice to apply it when you can, but really she's just doing damage with this. But remember, Super Maid can proc off this, so as long as if she can hit a few people with this, she's going to have a chance to dispel some of those buffs off of them, which is very nice. Okay. She gets magic defense break. Cool. I believe, what is that girl called? Shelfaniel. Shelfaniel has a thing like this. I dig it. It's nice because this girl is using intelligence to do damage, so breaking people's magic defense is nice. Where is, oh, it's right here. Ultimate training, oh, regiment. Okay. So with this pretty much, she's a maid and she favors being, she favors taking maid troops with her. First of all, when equipped with melee soldiers' range increases by 1. That's awesome because her zealots can now have a 2 range. When using maid type soldiers, gain immunity to fixed damage. A lot of the maids, they mask maids, they get some awesome stat buffs, but they get those stat buffs in exchange for 7% of their current hit points, and that is fixed damage. So she takes away the fixed damage from the maids, so they don't have to hurt themselves before they go into combat. That is very nice, right? And units like zealots over here, who only have a range of 1, with that ability equipped, these zealots have an attack range of 2. So that is pretty damn skippy. I think that is just absolutely awesome. And of course she gets samurais anyway, and samurais, they have a range of 2. You know what, I'm glad they gave her samurais just because I like looking at them. I think they look cool. But this gives me a chance to build up some zealots, and obviously mask maids are very good for her, so she has some solid troops for what she's doing, like buff management and then some mage damage. What does she get from ninja? She gets sneak. When initiating battle, crit increases by 10%, damage taken decreases by 20. So that's nice. Housekeeper is going to give her decay. Royal Maid is going to give her this Dragon's Breath and this ultimate training thing for the maids, which is very nice. Saint is going to give her Cleanse. No surprise that she has this. This dispels 2 buffs from the enemy, and obviously she has a chance to dispel another buff because of her talent. So Cleanse can be pretty damn gnarly on this girl. And finally, Martyr gives her Holy Shield upon attacking and entering battle, magic defense plus 10%. That's very niche, but it also gives her Holy Missile. Attacks all enemies along one line, dealing 0.33 AoE damage, additional damage to demons, and it also dispels 1 buff. It's got a 6 block range. We're familiar with Holy Missile. It's good, especially if the character that's throwing it has a talent that can also strip more buffs off of the enemy. Really, that's what this girl's doing. She's going to, debuff enemies and strip those buffs down, so by the time the enemy gets to you, they don't have like their faction buff, they don't have a lot of their buffs. They're going to be a lot weaker and a lot easier for your other characters to deal with. And hopefully along the way, this girl is also going to be buffing your team with things like Tenyo's headdress or whatever hat you put on her. In Gift of Eternal Life, this girl can do some supplemental healing. All in all, Maya is a very solid character. I can see why a lot of people want her as a waifu or just to collect. Her other skin looks amazing. This whole red dress, I mean, geez, it's ridiculous. It looks really cool. I do like her initial skin though. I like the little broom that she has, the little whatever that thing is. I don't know if she's gonna ride the broom or cast spells through it, but she looks pretty gnarly. I wouldn't mind having this little red dress of hers to take her out once in a while, but we're gonna have to work on that later. Definitely an awesome character though. I can't wait to run her with Aries. I think she sets up, she has the foundation for a very strong support character, and I think she's going to be able to support this faction in the future. And yeah, I think she can do a very good job of managing buffs and debuffs. I think it can go a long way. And on top of that, she's going to throw these spells like Ice Dragon's Breath, just as good as some of these other mages. So you have a mage support character with an S stat for intelligence. You know, granted her hit points are only a B, but that's really not that bad for what this girl's trying to do. She gets some kind of special with maids. She makes the maid stronger. That's very cool, and she gets to increase her soldiers' attack range by 1. That is very awesome. I can't wait to run this girl with some of the zealots and see what I can do with them. So, and again, both of the skins for both of these characters are absolutely amazing. Did we miss anything? I think we pretty much got it covered. So, I know it's been a long one. If you made it to the end of this, I hope you enjoyed it. Give me some feedback. Hit like, hit subscribe, tell your friends, bring a buddy, make a pal. But this is Mobile Gamers Unite. Over and out. I'm going to go hang out with my kids. They've been running around back here. It's really hard to get a 6-year-old not to interfere in a YouTube video. Like, my kid's been in the background doing cartwheels here. You guys just don't even know. But like I said, I wanted to get into Langrisser. There's just been a ton of stuff happening, and I haven't had a chance to cover it. I could have honestly made 3 videos out of just this one, so I'm sure it's going to be a long one, but I hope it was worth it. So, like I said, my comments are always open. Leave me some feedback. Let me know what you guys want to see, especially from Langrisser, and I will see you guys all later. Peace, everybody.